Okay, so now we're moving on to chapter 21, the immune system. And although we're kind of jumping chapters from 17 to 21, you'll see how this is an appropriate chapter to cover next because the bulk of this chapter is going to rediscuss and go into further detail about the leukocytes that we talked about in the blood chapter and what their specific roles are in the immune system. So when we're talking about the immune system, we typically divide it up into two different defense systems. We have our innate defense system, which is non-specifically targeting an antigen on a foreign substance or a microbe, or our adaptive defense system, which is targeting something specific, a specific antigen on some sort of debris or pathogen. There are collectively three different lines of defense. The first and second line are going to be a component of the innate defense system, and then the third line of defense is going to be the adaptive defense. So when we're talking about first line of defense, we're really just talking about our surface barriers. So our external body membranes, things like our skin and our mucosa. And our second line of defense is really a cellular defense. So we're going to have different types of cells, including phagocytes, along with some antimicrobial proteins that are helping defend us. Usually the first line of defense is okay. We won't call in our second line of defense unless our first line of defense is penetrated. And then again, adaptive was our third line of defense, and we're working on something very specific, some sort of specific antigen on a microbe or debris. Here's just a nice flow chart. So again, we're talking about our innate defense system as one of our systems, non-specific, including our surface barriers, and then our internal defenses. If our first line of defense is breached, we will call into play some different cells, antimicrobial proteins, inflammation, and fever, and we'll talk about all these in detail. Adaptive defenses is our very specific defense, and it's going to incorporate two different types of immunity. So we'll have humoral immunity, which is going to include our B lymphocytes, and then cellular immunity, which is going to include our T lymphocytes. Again, even though they're discussed separately, these two, the innate and adaptive defense systems, they're intertwined, and you'll see them working together hand in hand. Another unique thing about the immune system compared to all the other organ systems that you cover in anatomy and physiology is this is really a functional immune system rather than a organ style immune system where the structures are really going to be immune cells in place of those organs. So first line of defense, again, these are our surface barriers, so things like skin and mucosal membranes, along with whatever they're secreting. And this is really just to help provide a physical barrier between our internal environment and the external environment that we're constantly exposed to. Pretty sufficient as long as our epidermis stays intact. So what are some components that are considered part of the first line of defense? Well, one is going to be the acidity of our skin. So an acidic environment, usually, not for all pathogens, will help inhibit microbial proliferation or growth. So having a slightly acidic skin or secretion can help limit the number of bacteria or microbes that we have. I know not that long ago there was a trend where people were using alkaline or basic soaps until scientists went in and did a study on it and realized that if you increase the pH or the basicity of your skin, you are now allowing for microbes to proliferate and could potentially be more harmful to your body. Other things that can be found in the secretions from our surface barriers would be enzymes. So one example is lysozyme of saliva. We even have different things in our lacrimal fluid from our tears. And when we do our digestive system, you'll see the huge role enzymes play when we're talking about microbes or pathogens that we encounter in our digestive tract. Other things are like mucin. We also have defensins, which we mentioned in chapter 17. These were the antimicrobial proteins that link together to form a spear to poke holes in the plasma membranes of microbes. And then we have some other chemicals, so things like sebum and dermacidin.